Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Charlie, let's start with the most important question. Did you cause the death of Professor Dan Markel?
Absolutely no.
Did you hire anyone to kill him?
No.
It was a day followers of the Dan Markel case had been waiting for years, and it finally happened earlier this month in a Tallahassee courtroom. Charlie Adelson, now 47 years old, long suspected of having been one of the masterminds of a brutal murder that happened back in July 2014, was taking the stand, trying to convince a jury that he was innocent.
How do you feel right now?
I'm really nervous.
Why are you nervous?
My whole life depends on it.
Back on July 18th, 2014, 41-year-old Florida State University law professor Dan Markel was just coming home after a morning of running some errands, which included dropping his 2 young sons off at preschool and then going to the gym. As he pulled into the driveway, a green Toyota Prius pulled in after him, and while Dan was still in his car talking on the phone, a man got out of the Prius, walked up to Dan's car, and shot him twice in the head. Dan hung on for about 14 hours, but was pronounced dead at the hospital. Years passed, and then in 2016, Luis Rivera, Sigfredo Garcia, and Catherine Magbanua were all arrested and charged with Dan's murder. Luis pleaded guilty and agreed to testify against all other co-defendants, present and future, in the case, which is exactly what he did when Sigfredo and Catherine went to trial together in 2019. According to Luis, Sigfredo was a hired hitman, hired to murder Dan Markel, and Luis had agreed to help. According to Luis's testimony, they didn't know Dan, but Sigfredo had taken the job from Catherine Magbanua, who was the mother of his children and on-again, off-again girlfriend. At the time, Catherine was dating a man named Charlie Adelson, a periodontist, whose sister Wendy was going through a contentious divorce and post-divorce proceedings with Dan Markel. Luis testified in court that he and Sigfredo initially went from Miami to Tallahassee, where Dan lived, in early June 2014 to kill Dan, but they ended up calling it off. They then went back the following month, in mid-July. He testified that all he really knew was that they were doing the job so the lady could get her kids back, and that the dentist was the one who gave Catherine the money.
Do you know why Garcia, or how Garcia came to know about this murder or this job?
His girl.
Who's that?
Katie.
All right, so am I correct that Katie hired Garcia and Garcia hired you?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was to actually come to Tallahassee to do the murder?
It was me and him.
You and Garcia?
Yes, ma'am.
But not Katie?
No.
So she stayed in Miami?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and who was to get the money once the job was done?
Katie.
All right, and did she get the money?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know where she got the money from? Do you know where she got the money from?
Yeah, the people.
Who are the people?
The dentist.
Sigfredo Garcia was found guilty of being the man who pulled the trigger, but the jury was hung on Catherine's involvement. She was tried again in 2022, and this time the jury agreed that she was guilty and had, in fact, arranged the hit. So Luis Rivera pleaded guilty, and Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine Magbanua were both convicted. But the case was far from over. The state of Florida had successfully put the hitmen and Catherine behind bars, but members of the Adelson family, who the state had accused of being unindicted co-conspirators in court documents, remained uncharged. That was until just weeks prior to Catherine's second trial, when Charlie Adelson was arrested. It was a long time coming, especially since much of the testimony in the prior trials centered around Charlie, his mother Donna, and sister Wendy. Now, I'm not going to go over the actual investigation and what led investigators to the arrests. I've covered both trials in past episodes, so if you want all the details, please go back and listen to those. I do want to make it clear, however, that if you're not yet familiar with this case, you will still be able to follow along. In today's episode, we're going to get into what evidence the prosecution presented over these last few weeks that pointed to Charlie specifically, and perhaps other members of the Adelson family. This trial included much of the same testimony as in the prior trials, but there was a lot of new testimony too, like from Catherine Magbanowa, who was now a witness for the state, testifying against Charlie. She had already been sentenced to life in prison, but she was now cooperating in the hopes of getting some leniency with the court. And as you heard earlier, Charlie took the stand and testified on his own behalf. And much to many trial watchers' surprise, he addressed nearly every detail of evidence the state had presented against him. He had answers for everything he said in those wiretaps, and answers for why his stapled money had landed in the hands of the hitmen. He seemed confident, sure of himself, and he assured the jury he was telling the truth.
Charlie, I'm going to ask you again. Did you have anything to do with the murder of Professor Dan Markel?
Absolutely not.
Were you a principal in his first-degree murder?
Absolutely not.
Did you conspire in any way to murder him?
Absolutely not.
Did you solicit anyone to murder him?
Never.
Would a jury believe him? To find guilt, the jurors must be unanimous in their decision. And as they say, all it takes is one juror to be swayed. Stay tuned. This is Jillian in partnership with Law and Crime. You are listening to Court Junkie, episode 258, part 1. The prosecution's case against Charlie Adelson. I love the holidays, but holiday shopping? Not so much, especially when I have no idea what to get people. But this year, SKIMS just announced its biggest holiday gift shop ever. So my shopping might be just a little bit easier and more fun. It's like they say, 1 for you, 2 for me. If you're looking for the perfect present for everyone on your list, check out the SKIMS Holiday Gift Shop. They have great items for sisters, moms, dads, boyfriends, best friends, even pets. These collections have been designed for the whole family. SKIMS is creating the next generation underwear, loungewear, and shapewear. What's even better, especially if you're like me and are a last-minute gift wrapper, SKIMS' best-selling holiday collections come wrapped and ready to go in pre-packaged SKIMS holiday boxes. That's going to save me so much time. As for any other gifts I have, you can catch me wrapping those while wearing my SKIMS Soft Lounge sleep set in sparkle print that I just got. It's super soft and cuddly, and I'm basically going to be living in this for the next few cold Chicago months. SKIMS makes holiday shopping so easy. With styles for everyone in the family, SKIMS Holiday Gift Shop is the destination for all your gifting needs. Collections are available in sizes extra, extra small through 4X for women and unisex styles, and start at newborn sizing for children's styles. Believe the hype. SKIMS has over 100,000 5-star reviews for a reason. SKIMS Holiday Gift Shop is now open at skims.com. Plus, you can get free shipping on orders over $75. Don't forget, after you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. That's skims.com.
Let's get right to it. The reason that we're here today is because the defendant in this case, Charlie Adelson, hired a hitman to kill his former brother-in-law, Dan Markel.
Prosecutor Sarah Dugan gave the opening statements for the state.
This murder was set into motion because back in 2014, the defendant's family, the Adelson family, had a big problem. And that big problem was Dan Markel. And the solution to that problem was this defendant. This defendant was the solution to that problem because he had a girlfriend with connections to the type of people who were willing and capable of pointing a gun at a complete stranger and pulling the trigger. The victim in this case was known as Danny to his friends and family. He was a loving father to 2 little boys. He was a highly respected professor at Florida State College of Law. And tragically, on July 18th of 2014, Dan Markel was shot twice in the head in broad daylight in the driveway of his home in the Benton Hills neighborhood here in Tallahassee.
Prosecutor Dugan told the jury about the investigation into Dan's murder and how investigators ultimately landed at Charlie Adelson's involvement.
In looking at who might have a motive to kill Dan Markel, law enforcement learned that Markel was entangled in a very nasty divorce with his ex-wife, who is the defendant's sister. Her name is Wendy Adelson. A review of their divorce case file revealed that Wendy Adelson asked the court to allow her to move back to Miami, where she was from, with the kids, in order to be near her parents, whose names are Harvey and Donna Adelson, and her brother, the defendant. Dan Markel was adamantly opposed to his children being relocated to Miami. He was a law professor here in Tallahassee. This is where he lived. This is where his kids have been raised. He wanted his kids to live here with him. And for this custody dispute, the judge ended up ruling in Dan Markel's favor. So Wendy Adelson was not permitted to move to Miami with the children. Unless, of course, something happened to Dan Markel. A review of Wendy Adelson's emails revealed that her mother, Donna Adelson, hated Dan Markel and was desperate to find a way for Wendy and her children, who were Donna Adelson's grandchildren, to be able to move to Miami.
In the emails Donna sent to Wendy, she suggested several ways that Wendy could threaten or bully Dan into submission, even suggesting offering Dan a $1 million bribe to allow the kids to relocate to Miami with Wendy. She wrote that Charlie had even offered to pay 1/3 of the $1 million.
The evidence in this case will show that Donna Adelson's closest confidant was her son, the defendant. She and the defendant talked multiple times a day, every day. He was the person with whom she would constantly vent and complain to about Wendy's situation. The defendant was also the person that Donna Adelson relied on to solve her problems. And this was a big, big problem for Donna Adelson. And she made it the defendant's problem to solve.
She told the jury that Dan and Wendy had filed motion after motion against each other, even long after their divorce had been finalized, right up until Dan's death.
Shortly before the murder, in fact, Dan Markel, the victim, filed with the court and basically asked the court, he alleged that Donna Adelson was disparaging him to his children by saying bad things about him. And he asked the court to enter an order preventing Donna Adelson from having unsupervised contact with her grandchildren. This motion was still pending in court when Dan Markel was killed. The murder of Dan Markel ensured that an adverse ruling on his motion would never be a problem for the Adelsons. And just about 48 hours after the shooting, Wendy, Adelson, and the little boys relocated to Miami. Shortly thereafter, moved into a home within walking distance of the Adelsons' Miami home. Within a year of Dan Markel's murder, Wendy Adelson legally changed Dan Markel's son's last name from Markel to Adelson. And just like that, their father was just effectively erased from their lives at 3 and 4. And the Adelsons' family, their big problem had been solved.
She said the Adelsons are a very tight-knit family, and that Charlie and his parents, Donna and Harvey, even worked together at Harvey's dental practice, the Adelson Institute.
After Dan Markel was killed on July 18, 2014, law enforcement interviewed Wendy Adelson. And Wendy Adelson acknowledged that her family had a motive to kill Dan Markel or to want him dead. She admitted that her brother, the defendant, had even said that he looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel as a divorce present to her. But he decided to buy her a TV instead because it was cheaper. And coincidentally, or not, that TV that this defendant bought his sister as a divorce gift instead of hiring a hitman would be Wendy Adelson's alibi for the morning of the murder when the victim was killed by a hitman.
She said a lot of people don't like their in-laws, but the difference is that it stopped being just a little bit of trash talk when Dan Markel was actually murdered by a hitman.
So Dan Markel was a problem that this defendant needed to solve for his family. The defendant was looking to hire a hitman to kill Dan Markel. Dan Markel ends up being killed by a hitman. And who ended up being the hitman? It was someone with a close relationship to this defendant's girlfriend. The hitman was the father of his girlfriend's children.
Prosecutor Dugan talked about how phone records led investigators to Sigfredo Garcia and how financial records indicated Sigfredo, Louis, and Catherine had suspiciously come into a lot of money right after the murder.
About 2 months after the murder, the defendant added Catherine McBanois to the payroll at the Adelson Institute. And she began receiving regular checks from their business account every 2 weeks for 2 years after the murder. And this was despite the fact that she did not work at the Adelson Institute.
She told the jury how phone records showed a distinct pattern between those involved.
The phone calls, and they can't see the content, they can't hear the content of these calls in these phone records, but they see that the calls are occurring. And the phone calls always went from Donna Adelson to the defendant. Then from the defendant to Catherine McBanois. Then from Catherine McBanois to Sigfredo Garcia. And back the other way. Kind of like train cars, they only touch the car right in front of them. You know, Donna Adelson never calls Catherine McBanois or Sigfredo Garcia. Charlie Adelson never calls Sigfredo Garcia, or vice versa. So if this is a murder for hire, as law enforcement suspects, could it be that the defendant was wisely insulating himself from the actual shooters by having Catherine McBanois act as a middleman between them?
She detailed for the jury how in April 2016, investigators got court authorization to listen in on both Catherine's and Charlie's phone calls in real time, what's known as a wiretap. But it was nearly 2 years after the murder, and everyone had since moved on. Charlie and Catherine had broken up since the fall of 2014. Catherine and Sigfredo were back together, and Luis Rivera was in federal custody for an unrelated case.
So all of the members of this conspiracy have presumably gone on with their lives, believing they've gotten away with this murder. So even though law enforcement has authority to listen to their calls now, what reason would these people have to still be discussing the murder at this point? So police needed to stage an event that would generate conversation between the conspirators about the murder. And the plan was to send an undercover agent posing as somebody on behalf of Luis Rivera, who was incarcerated, to walk up to Donna Adelson on the street and try to extort money out of her. And law enforcement refers to this as the bump. So this undercover agent walks up to Donna Adelson one day as she's leaving the Adelson Institute during the day. The undercover agent hands Donna Adelson a piece of paper. And on the piece of paper is an article about the murder of Dan Markel with his picture on it and, FSU professor killed. Also on the piece of paper are a phone number and the amount of $5,000. The undercover agent tells Donna Adelson that he knows that the Adelsons are taking care of Katie, and he's there to extort money out of her on Rivera's behalf in order to even things out. The undercover agent never says the defendant's name or anything about the defendant's involvement to Donna Adelson. Then law enforcement listens to see what will happen next. Will Donna Adelson go straight to the police to report this extortion attempt, or will something else entirely happen? As suspected, based on the previously observed communication pattern, the first person that Donna Adelson calls after the bump is the defendant.
She said in that call, Donna never mentioned Dan Markel's name, but rather spoke in code.
Instead, she tells the defendant that she needs to talk to him in person, not over the phone, about some paperwork that was hand-delivered to her. She said that this paperwork, she says this to the defendant, it involves the two of us, and that he should know what she's talking about. She says that he should bring cash to their meeting. And she also says that this TV is about 5. Donna Adelson tells the defendant that the man who approached her mentioned an ex-girlfriend. Donna Adelson never says which ex-girlfriend she's referring to. She never says Catherine McBanois or Katie's name to the defendant in that phone call. She only says that the blackmailer mentioned an ex-girlfriend. The defendant never asks his mom, whose ex-girlfriend? My ex-girlfriend? Which ex-girlfriend? He never asked that. Because as the evidence will show, he didn't need to. He knew that this TV is about 5 meant that she was being blackmailed about Danny's murder for $5,000. And he knew that the ex-girlfriend in question was Catherine McBanois. And we know that because after this call with his mother, what does the defendant? The defendant calls Catherine McBanois.
She said neither Charlie nor Donna ever reported anything to the police. The only people Charlie discussed this with on the phone calls were Donna and Catherine.
And as you listen to these calls, y'all will notice that they are being cautious about what they say over the phone. It's very apparent that they are very careful with their words because they are immediately suspicious that law enforcement could be listening to their conversations.
She said Donna and Charlie then met up, and Donna gave Charlie the paper she had received. Then Charlie met with Catherine at a restaurant called Dolce Vita. An undercover FBI agent hid nearby, recording what they were saying.
And in the recording, we hear the defendant discussing whether the man who walked up to his mom could be an undercover police officer or someone who's trying to blackmail them. And if it's the latter, if it's a blackmailer, is it somebody who's just trying to make a quick buck, or is it somebody who actually knows information from the inside?
Prosecutor Dugan told the jury how the recording of Charlie and Catherine at the Dolce Vita restaurant was enhanced, which allowed investigators to finally arrest Charlie. This recording, along with a transcript, would be submitted into evidence later in the trial.
Since 2016, as technology developed over the years, and thanks to law enforcement's just continued dedication, law enforcement eventually found an expert that was formerly employed by the CIA with improved technology and enough expertise to clarify this recording at Dolce Vita that y'all will hear. And he did that by being able to reduce as much background noise as possible.
She told the jury that Charlie conspired and solicited Catherine to kill Dan, and that he paid her once it was completed.
This defendant acted in furtherance of this murder plot that went beyond just thinking about it or talking about it. And these acts make him guilty as a principal to first-degree murder, just as if he pulled the trigger himself.
The prosecution's opening statements and theory of the case were pretty expected for those who have been following along over the last 9 years. But the defense's theory was perhaps more of a surprise. Court Junkie is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. While you're listening to me talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you could be doing right now: getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, for being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations. I recently listened to a podcast episode with novelist and Nobody Should Believe Me podcast host Andrea Dunlop, where she discussed the prevalence of medical child abuse and what we can do to fight it. She had this discussion with Jordan Harbinger on the Jordan Harbinger Show, which, as you know by now, is one of my personal favorite podcasts. Jordan's show, which Apple named one of its best of 2018, is aimed at making you a better informed, more critical thinker, so you can get a sense of how the world actually works and come to your own conclusions about what's happening, even inside your own brain. Each episode is a conversation with a different fascinating guest, and there's something for everyone here. In one episode, Jordan talks to a hostage negotiator from the FBI who offers techniques on how to get people to like and trust you. Another episode tells the story of a cinematographer who discovered a lost city in the jungle and made one of the most important archaeological finds of the century. I really enjoy this show, and I think you court junkies will as well. Search for the Jordan Harbinger Show. That's Harb as in boy, IN as in Nancy, GER, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can go to jordanharbinger.com/subscribe. Dan Rashbaum was the lead attorney for Charlie Adelson's defense. In his opening statements, he called Dan Markel's death a tragedy. But he said the state can't come close to meeting its burden because Charlie is innocent. He said the jury might be surprised to learn that he has respect and admiration for the prosecution and for all the hard work they put into the investigation into Dan's death. It paid off, he said. They got the 3 killers and convicted them.
Problem is, as you just heard, the state saw no connection between these people and Professor Markel. So from the very outset, the state suspected the Adelsons, the family. You saw the chart. It wasn't limited to Charlie Adelson. Unindicted co-conspirators in this case, the state has said it, Wendy Adelson, Donna Adelson, Harvey Adelson.
He said they couldn't find the connection, and then they had their aha moment where they connected Charlie with Catherine and Sigfredo. He said the problem is that's where the state began to guess and to make assumptions.
I love jigsaw puzzles. I've loved them since I'm young. The reason why I love them is because they only work if every piece fits. No matter what you do with the jigsaw puzzle, if a piece doesn't fit, it becomes a mess. You can't hammer it, and you can't ignore it. Because if you ignore it, you have holes in the puzzle.
He said the state is trying to make the puzzle pieces fit, but that they don't. He said because the state doesn't know what really happened on July 18th, 2014.
On that day, 2 crimes occurred. The first one, the state knows about. And that was the brutal, heinous murder of Professor Markel. The other one, they don't know about. They're about to find out like you. Because that day would forever change Charlie Adelson's life.
He told the jury that he likes cliffhangers and that before he gets there, he wants to give them some background. He said Charlie, the middle child of 3 children, grew up in Coral Springs in Broward County. His father, Harvey, was a local dentist at a small dental practice at the time. Growing up, the family was middle class, and Charlie wasn't really close with either of his siblings. As they got older, he and Wendy became close. He said Charlie went to college at the University of Central Florida, then dental school, and then periodontic school. When he graduated, he had an idea. Rather than work in his own practice, he figured he could travel around to dental practices all over South Florida and be a traveling periodontist. He said he was in the car for hours a day and was a workaholic. One thing he did while in the car to pass the time was to talk a lot on the phone, talking to whoever would listen to him.
And you're going to see in this case, this is one thing we won't deny, Charlie Adelson likes to talk. And he likes to repeat himself. And who would he speak with the most? He'd speak with his girlfriend. He'd speak with his mom. He'd speak with his friends.
He said Wendy followed a different path. She went to a prestigious university in Boston, then went to school in England on a Truman Fellowship, and later went to law school. She got scholarships for law school and college. She met Dan while in college, and they fell in love and got married, ultimately moving to Tallahassee and both working at FSU.
Charlie Adelson didn't have much to do with either Professor Markel or Wendy during their marriage or before their marriage. He would talk to his sister periodically, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. They lived in Tallahassee for years. Charlie Adelson visited him in Tallahassee 2, maybe 3 times.
He said at the time of the murder, Charlie wasn't married, had no kids, and had a lot of money. He was living a very good life, he said. Wendy would confide in him at times about her unhappiness in her marriage and the fact that she and Dan were going to counseling, but Charlie wasn't involved. Eventually, Wendy and Dan divorced. Again, he said, that had nothing to do with Charlie. He told the jury that they would be hearing a lot about TVs in this case. He said when Wendy moved out of the home she had shared with Dan in 2012, she didn't have a TV. So Charlie told his parents to get her one next time they went to visit her and that he would pay for it. He said Wendy then called him to thank him.
And she thanked him for the TV. And he didn't say he looked into hiring a hitman. He joked, a bad joke. And he said it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. Now, not only was it a bad joke, but you're going to hear in this trial, Charlie repeated the joke. He repeated it a lot to a lot of people. You're going to hear that he repeated it as late as March of 2014. So the man that they think hired a hitman is joking to others about hiring a hitman. Puzzle pieces. And you're going to learn why his repeating of that joke is going to be so important. I'm going to tell you in a little bit. Keep in the back of your mind.
He said Charlie knew Wendy was filing the motion to relocate, but he didn't have anything to do with that. And when it was denied, it didn't change Charlie's life one bit. He admitted that Donna and Harvey were upset about it, though. They wanted Wendy and the kids to move.
You will see that Donna Adelson and Harvey came up with a lot of crazy ideas. I mean, crazy ideas. You're going to see them. You've heard about some of them. When they show you those crazy ideas, take a look if any of them includes murder. Doesn't. Take a look at any of those crazy ideas include anything illegal. It doesn't.
He said the Adelsons actually went to lawyers to make sure that any of their ideas they came up with were legal. And they were never presented to Dan, he said.
And then you're going to see that there was another idea. They mentioned it in their opening, but they don't understand the importance of it. See, at one point in time, Donna Adelson and Harvey Adelson came with an idea to pay Professor Markel $1 million to allow their daughter to relocate. And they went to Charlie, who frankly by this point in time had more money than them. And they said, will you lend your sister $350,000? She'll pay you back or we'll pay you back. And he said, sure. And you're going to see that they presented this idea to Wendy Adelson. And the idea wasn't to take the boys out of Professor Markel's life. The idea was that with the $1 million, if Professor Markel agreed, he could live in South Florida and commute back and forth to Tallahassee. He could work out his schedule. He didn't teach every day of the week. He could work out his schedule so that he could still teach at the university and go back and forth. You're going to see that Wendy Adelson never made that offer. But it's very important. Like the joke, I want you to put it in your back of your mind for now.
He told the jury that in October 2013, Charlie started dating Catherine, or Katie. He said she was hardworking, beautiful, and smart. At first, their relationship was casual, and he said Charlie liked it that way, since his priority was his job. He said Charlie would talk to Catherine a lot, And one of the things he told her was about the Adelsons' $1 million offer they wanted to make to Dan.
He told her that he could pay it in cash. She said, that's a lot of money. He said, no, I have it in cash, and I'm going to get it back. He told her several times the joke. Over time, you're going to see through text messages that Katie wanted a deeper relationship. And you'll see that Charlie didn't want that. You'll also learn, and the timeline is important. They meet in September. They start dating in October of 13. You're going to see that over time, it takes a couple months, Charlie starts to learn a little bit more about Katie's ex, Sigfredo Garcia.
He said Charlie never met Sigfredo officially, but Rashbaum said he was a violent man with a long criminal history. And since Charlie was dating Catherine, Sigfredo hated him.
The shooter of Professor Markel, the man who murdered him, hated Charlie Adelson, according to them, his co-conspirator. And you're going to hear, not from our witnesses, from their own witnesses, that he wanted to kill Charlie Adelson. You're going to hear that in March of 2014, just 7 or 8 weeks before that first attempt of murder that they talk about, he tried to kill him. Puzzle pieces.
He said one of the craziest facts in this case is that on July 1st, 2014, Sigfredo made a phone call to Harvey Adelson, which is what initially broke the case.
What they don't know, what you're going to see, it's in text messages. It's discussed on the wires. They don't know it because they don't understand it because they weren't there. Is that on July 1st, 2014, just 3 weeks or so after the first murder attempt. And by the way, just 17 days before the murder. Let me repeat that. The murder happens on July 18, 2014. On July 1st, 2014, Sigfredo Garcia tries to run Charlie off the road. He threatens him. And what you're going to hear is that on July 1, he's so upset that he calls the Adelson Institute. He doesn't realize that Charlie isn't the doctor at the Adelson Institute. He just comes in and out of the place. So he gets their voicemail machine. And you know how dentists are? They say in an emergency, call a cell phone number. They take your call at home on the cell phone number. Well, he hears in an emergency, call Dr. Adelson at such and such number. He thinks he's calling Charlie Adelson, but he calls Harvey Adelson. And he calls him and he threatens him. He tells him, if you keep dating Katie, we're going to go mano y mano. I'm going to kill you. 17 days before, according to them, he conspired with this man to kill Professor Markel. Puzzle pieces.
He said in the spring of 2014, it became apparent to Catherine that her dream of financial security with Charlie wasn't going to work out.
You will learn that Katie heard the hitman joke. You will learn that she heard the $1 million offer and she got some ideas in her head. The state itself has called Catherine Magbanawa the mastermind. And that's exactly what she was. So now, let's get to July 18th. I kept you waiting long enough.
He said on July 18th, 2014, the day of Dan's murder, Charlie went to work in Jupiter, Florida. While he was traveling in his car, he talked to Wendy, Donna, and Catherine. He said the calls and text messages throughout the day were normal. Then, just after 7 p.m., he got a phone call from Donna, who told him that Dan had been shot. He said he was in shock. Charlie had plans to go to dinner with Catherine that night, and he told her that he didn't want to go anymore. He left the office in Jupiter at about 8 p.m. Catherine told him she would come over to comfort him.
He shook up. Now, let me be clear. You're going to hear he wasn't close with Professor Markel. They weren't friends. They had nothing in common. But he shook up because someone he knew, the father of his nephews, had been shot. When Katie arrived that night, and you're going to learn more details of how she gets there, what she has to do to get there. It's not planned. You're going to see that. The state's going to put on that evidence. You're going to learn that she's scrambling to get a babysitter. You're going to learn, by the way, that Charlie had seen her for lunch the day before. So if it's a murder for hire, why didn't she get the money then?
He said Catherine got to Charlie's house sometime after 11 p.m. and was frantic and upset. He said she sat him down and told him that a friend of hers had shot Dan.
She tells him over and over that she had nothing to do with it. But these people, she was talking too much. And her friend and these people learn about the problems that his family was having with Professor Markel. They learned about the $1 million offer. And they got it in their minds to do this. As you can imagine, his life has just forever been altered. He asked, who are these people? She won't tell him. It's not safe for you to know. Screaming at her, she won't tell him. Charlie had a guess. You will hear in detail what happened that night. You will learn that Charlie Adelson was told if he didn't pay within the next 48 hours, he or one of his family members would be next. You will learn that Katie repeatedly said that she had nothing to do with it and acted distraught. You will hear how she said that she would help him. You will learn about the initial payment. It wasn't $100,000. It was more than $100,000. He took out everything he had in his safe. You're going to learn about that. The state doesn't know it. It was more money. But you're going to learn he didn't have $350,000. So he had to pay every month. They don't know about that either. Payments every month. Does that sound like a murder for hire? Or does that sound like extortion?
He told the jury that they would be hearing about gifts Charlie would give to Catherine, but he said they were just that, gifts.
Because as time went on, he became more and more certain that Katie was not involved. He became more and more certain that she was helping him. And he wanted to keep her happy too because he needed her. He needed her help.
He said the payments changed, and so Catherine was put on the books at the Adelson Institute. They created a paper trail, he said. The pieces of the puzzle don't fit. He said Catherine told Charlie they could never talk about it.
You can never talk on the phone about this. You can never talk about it in public. You can never talk about it anywhere. Because if they find out, they will kill you and your family. If they think the police are coming to you to talk to you, they will kill you. Look at what they did to Professor Markel. But you will hear that he told someone. He had to. He told his mom. You'll learn that she was the bookkeeper for the Dental Institute. You'll learn why he had to tell her. You'll learn about those checks. They've never been able to understand. Why are they so sequential? Why are they back and forth? You'll learn why. They talk about the bump in 2016. What I like to call is the second extortion. What they don't realize is that their undercover operation was an extortion on an extortion. They don't know it. It's not their fault.
He said the wires and the Dolce Vita recording actually prove Charlie's innocence. He said Charlie was talking about an extortion on those tapes, not a murder. And he said they were happy when they were sure it was the police who gave the letter to Donna because it meant they weren't going to get killed.
If it's a bad guy, they're in danger. If you do a murder with someone, the last person in the world you want this bump to be is the police. Because it means they're onto you.
He told the jury that a man's life is in their hands.
He's innocent. Send him home.
Among the first witnesses called to the stand for the state were witnesses who testified in the prior trials. Dan Markel's neighbor, who saw the Prius pulling away from the scene, crime scene investigators who responded, and the medical examiner. And Wendy Adelson also testified again. She answered questions about her relationship and marriage to Dan. She said after they split up, they had 50-50 shared custody of their two young sons, who were 4 and 3 at the time. Prosecutor Georgia Kappelman asked her if she recalled the motion for relocation to Miami that she had filed. Wendy said yes. She testified that she had a small hope that it might be successful, but didn't think it was likely.
And weren't you thinking, well, maybe Danny would be happy working somewhere else because he's mentioned applying elsewhere, so maybe he'll allow the relocation? Were you thinking that?
He and I talked about the relocation. So when we talked about it, he thought, well, if I can live nearby in Miami, that might work. And then I could commute to FSU. I didn't mean for him to leave FSU, but he wanted to leave FSU at some point. So that was just a matter of time.
So you thought it might be successful?
Sure. I mean, I thought it was possible, but not likely.
She said she has a good relationship with her parents. She said her mom is a very dedicated grandmother.
Did the litigation revolving around the divorce and the subsequent issues that arose, did that impact your family back in South Florida?
I mean, only to the extent that I think they felt bad for what I was going through, but...
Prosecutor Kappelman handed her some court documents and asked Wendy to look them over. They included emails from Donna to Wendy, where Donna tells Wendy what she should say to the court to get them to allow her to relocate. In one, Donna says that both she and Harvey, along with Charlie, were suffering financially as a result of Wendy not being able to relocate. She said it was negatively impacting their business since they were constantly going to Tallahassee to support Wendy and see the kids. She wrote that in turn, that negatively impacted Charlie since he had purchased the practice from Harvey. In another email, she wrote,
Dad's, mine, and yes, even Charlie's will be affected by how well you can perform/act before July 31st. You need to be a good actress you can be a good actress when you want to. I've seen you in action. You need to put on the performance of your life. Jibbers hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet.
Wendy was asked if at the time of the murder, her parents were extremely angry with Dan. She said no. At that time, they were in a much better place. Prosecutor Kappelman gave her a transcript of her interview with detectives on the day Dan was shot.
Yes, says Ms. Adelson, my parents are, very angry toward him. Is that true? Isn't that what you said? Your parents were very angry toward Dan.
Can I read the rest of the sentence?
Sure.
So I say, my parents are very angry towards him, but even when they're around my kids, they would never say a bad word about my kid's father.
And then on page 288, line 24, through page 289, line 1. Didn't you say, it's like my parents have more reason to dislike Danny than almost anyone else? Is that what you said?
That is what I said.
And that's because he hurt you, right?
And I was saying that in the context of talking to law enforcement for hours and hours and trying to help them figure out who might be responsible.
Right. And who did you tell them might be responsible?
Well, I told them many, many people. But are you asking about this particular moment right here?
You told them your family might be responsible.
Or potentially someone to do with a former student or his current girlfriend. I mentioned lots of people that I thought could be responsible.
Okay. And of the lots of people that could have been responsible, your family was one.
Yep.
Because they might have done this thinking it would help you. I mean, that's what happened, right?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Your family had your ex-husband killed to try to help you, didn't they?
No, that's completely untrue.
Prosecutor Kappelman brought out the divorce filings again and showed her emotion where Dan was accusing her of theft.
He was accusing you in these pleadings of all kind of stuff, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's true, but hiding financial assets, failing to disclose things, kidnapping his kids in the middle of, his business trip, all those sorts of things, right?
Yes, you said lots of things.
All right. And you said a lot of things, too. There's filings going both ways that are pretty venomous. Would you agree with that?
I would not agree with that.
Yours were pleasant.
I'm not saying divorce filings are pleasant, but mine were not venomous.
Prosecutor Kappelman asked if Donna ever saw the motion Dan filed before his death, asking the court to only give Donna supervised visitation with the kids.
My mom never saw that because after he filed that, he then asked my parents to babysit the kids. My mom baked him banana bread, gave him a hug goodbye. So there was nothing truthful about that pleading that he filed, and my mom never saw it.
Why do you think he filed that?
He was really angry at me for leaving him.
Okay. So he didn't really want to limit your mom's visitation with the kids.
No.
And that's evidenced.
Babysit after he filed that.
Evidenced by the banana bread.
Prosecutor Kappelman brought up how in an email Donna had sent to Wendy, she said Wendy should tell her attorney that the one non-negotiable thing for her is relocation. Wendy also agreed that Donna called Dan names.
Did she call him an asshole?
Yes.
A narcissist?
Yes.
A bully?
Yes.
Religious zealot?
Yes.
Bastard?
That I don't remember.
Page 5. Okay. Fucker?
Yes.
But in all the filings made on your behalf by the different lawyers that you had and all of the emails that your mom sent, he was never described as abusive.
I mean, he was described as emotionally abusive, yes.
Can you show me where he was described as emotionally abusive in any of those items?
Well, not by my mom, but in the pleadings.
Okay, show me that.
It's going to take me a while to find it.
Okay, well, it's not in there, but you can get back to me.
Well, it is in there.
The attorneys went to the bench for a sidebar. When they came back, Prosecutor Kappelman asked Wendy if she had felt like she was stuck in Tallahassee, and she said no. Prosecutor Kappelman again asked her to look through the filings.
I see the word stuck. I found it.
Okay. So did you describe, at least in one occasion, being stuck in Tallahassee?
No. Can I read the sentence?
Sure.
So it says, the husband has made it difficult for the wife with her colleagues at her current position due to his statements and actions. And the husband's intent is to relocate to a larger area at some point. So the wife is merely stuck in Tallahassee until the husband decides that the time is right for him to leave.
All right.
Meaning,
and had he accepted a job anywhere else by the time that he was murdered?
No, he hadn't yet been offered a job, but he was always looking.
Okay. So he was just going to move and just let you have the kids at that point?
He probably would have done what I did, which is have a conversation and see if it was a place that made sense for both of us to live.
And would you have moved to wherever he got a great job and started a new life there?
Potentially, yeah.
In one of Dan's motions, he accused Wendy of not disclosing everything in her affidavit in the divorce and of withholding finances from him.
And he was of the belief that you had withheld some financial things from your affidavit, and maybe he didn't owe you the money that you had previously agreed on because you had not been honest in the initial disclosures, right?
He accused my attorney of having unclean hands and committing a crime.
Yeah, and assisting you in withholding this money from the disclosures. Okay.
On Halloween 2013, Wendy filed a motion asking that Dan be held in contempt of court for not paying her what he owed in their divorce settlement. Prosecutor Kappelman noted that it was the same day Wendy backed out of buying a house for herself and the kids in Tallahassee.
Do you remember that it was your brother, Charlie, that specifically convinced you to back out of that particular house deal?
I don't remember that.
Wendy said that she was upset about pulling the plug on the house. She said she couldn't afford it. A few months later, Dan filed a motion seeking a court to sanction her for not disclosing assets on her financial affidavit. In March 2014, Wendy responded with a motion to dismiss. 6 days later, Dan filed a motion alleging more violations of the marital agreement, including communicating with and about the kids. This was also when he asked for Donna's visits with the kids to be supervised.
And this was the filing that never got ruled on, right?
I don't believe there was any ruling on this.
And that's because Dan Markel was killed before the hearing, right?
I don't know when it was scheduled for.
It wasn't even scheduled yet.
Okay.
It was waiting to be scheduled when he was killed. Is it fair to say your mom was worried about this motion?
No, my mom never knew about this motion. And as I mentioned before, Danny asked my mom to babysit after filing this motion, so I don't really believe anything that's written here.
Well, you forwarded this motion to your mother.
I don't believe
via
I did.
Email. In fact, you forwarded this motion to 12 different people. Your mom, Jeffrey Lacasse, Renee Griggs, Tova Walsh, Morgan Honeycutt, Gary Cohen, Miguel Edmondson, Trey Hubler, Robert Adelson, Rachel Frank, Jared Reich, and some MEHULNYC at yahoo.com. So if you weren't worried about this, why'd you send it to all these people?
I couldn't really say. It's been a long time.
Prosecutor Kappelman asked her if, leading up to Dan's death, Charlie liked Dan, and she said yeah, she thinks they got along fine. When asked if Charlie had ever joked about hiring a hitman, Wendy said no. Prosecutor Kappelman handed her a transcript from her police interview.
Quote, "It was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman and it was cheaper to get you this TV. Is that what he said?
That was a joke that he made, yes.
And hiring the hitman, that was to kill Dan Markel, right? That was the joke.
That was the joke that he made in poor taste, yes.
Not to kill someone else.
No. Well, he never used his name.
Okay. Well, he's hiring you the TV because it's cheaper as a divorce present than a hitman. Who else would he be hitting with the hitman?
I never really thought about it because it was not a thing that he meant. He just made a bad joke.
Well, you repeated the joke, didn't you?
He repeated the joke.
Didn't you also repeat the joke?
To other people?
Yes, like Jeff Lacasse.
I never said that to Jeff Lacasse.
You didn't tell Jeff Lacasse that your brother got you that TV as a divorce present because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman.
I may have repeated that joke in the context of the TV, yes.
Wendy was asked if she told her boyfriend at the time, Jeffrey Lacasse, right before the murder, that Charlie really had looked into hiring a hitman. And she said no. But she said Charlie did buy her a TV as a divorce present.
And was the TV that your brother bought you as a divorce present the same TV that was being repaired on the morning of the murder?
Yes.
Did your mom text you that morning that the repair guy was coming to repair the TV?
I don't remember that.
Why would your mom have been involved in your TV repair appointment?
Because I didn't purchase the TV. The TV was a gift that my brother paid for, but my mom went and got it and he reimbursed her. So the contract would have been under her name and her number. So when the repair guy was coming, they might have called or texted the number on the account instead of my number.
She was asked if after the murder she went out to dinner with Charlie and vomited at the table. She said yes. When asked if she had ever told Jeffrey Lacoste that it was a celebratory dinner, she said no.
Was that dinner a celebration of the murder of your ex-husband?
Absolutely not. That dinner was the first time I left my house after over a month because I was terrified. And if it was a celebration of anything, it was a celebration that I was willing to leave the house and eat a meal.
Prosecutor Kappelman then asked her when she learned that Catherine Magbanua was extorting Charlie. She said today.
So he never told you?
No.
You testified in Catherine Magbanua's murder trial last year, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And she was convicted.
She was convicted, yes.
Of murder?
Yes, of murder.
Of murdering Dan Markel?
Of murdering my children's father, yes.
A crime for which she apparently is innocent because she was just a conduit for Sigfredo Garcia. Did you learn that today along with all of us?
Well, I learned that someone made that argument. I don't know whether it's true or not true.
Okay. You have no knowledge of it?
I have no knowledge.
In all the years this has been pending?
In all of the years this has been pending.
Your brother has known who killed your child's father, and you didn't know?
I did not know.
She was asked how the killers knew that Dan was planning on leaving town the day after his murder. She said she has no idea.
You knew he was planning to leave town the next day, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Did you convey that information to anyone?
Absolutely not.
To your knowledge, did your brother have that information?
I don't know why he would have known that.
So if the killers were told it has to be done today because he's leaving town tomorrow, we don't know how they knew that.
I have no idea how they knew that.
But it would have to come from someone familiar with Dan Markel's schedule, wouldn't it?
They would have to find out somehow. I don't know how.
Prior to Dan's murder, she said she was last in South Florida in early July for her dad's 70th birthday. She was there for about a week, and Charlie was there too. She was asked what was on the menu, and she said paella.
Did your dad get any big gifts for his 70th?
I don't remember.
So there was no big lead up and discussion about some big gift that you were involved in, at least?
I don't remember. I don't remember if I gave him a present. I hope I did.
Do you remember what anybody gave him for that birthday?
I really don't.
Was the murder of Dan Markel your dad's big gift?
I mean, that's, of course not. That's a horrible thing to say.
What about the grandchildren, getting full unfettered access to the grandchildren?
My
Could
parents
that have
had
been the
full
big
unfettered
gift?
access to their grandchildren always.
Not when they lived in Tallahassee.
Well, whenever they could come up and see them, they did.
They were 50% of the time with Dan Markel, right?
Sure, but whenever they were with me, they had full unfettered access.
She was asked if there was ever a discussion amongst her family members on the trip to South Florida for her dad's birthday about a murder or about what to do about Dan. She said no, absolutely not. As for any more discussions about converting the kids to Christianity or any of those strategies, she said no, that ship had long sailed. As for what was wrong with the TV on the morning of the murder, she said she believes one of her kids threw something at it and the screen was broken.
The repairman, you're familiar with his statement that you seemed really upset that day. What were you upset about?
I have no idea.
Were you upset that day?
I don't remember being... Oh, yes, I was upset that day. I was upset. I remember Danny wanted to take the kids swimming, and I wanted to pick them up earlier in the day.
Okay,
and
so nothing to do with the TV.
I don't think so. I probably wasn't that upset about the TV.
Did you ever use the TV as code for the murder?
No.
Did you ever hear your mom do that?
No.
After the TV repairman left her house on the morning of July 18th, the morning of Dan's murder, she said she left to meet some friends for lunch at about 12:30. She reiterated her prior testimony from the past trials about how she was going to make a stop at a liquor store to pick up Bullet bourbon for a Stock the Bar party she was going to later that night. On her way, she went to turn down her old street where Dan lived and saw police tape up, so she turned around. She said she thought nothing of it and didn't think to check on Dan or the boys, who she figured were already at the preschool.
Had you talked to Dan Markel or your kids that morning?
My kids know, but that would have been normal. And Danny and I tried to get in touch with each other, but we left. We were trying to figure out where Ben was going to go to kindergarten at the time, and we left voicemails for each other, but didn't get to talk.
Okay. Did he leave you a voicemail message that morning?
He did.
Okay. I asked you earlier about him being scheduled to leave town the day after he was killed. Do you know where he was planning to go?
He was going to New York to see his girlfriend.
The message that he left you that morning, do you remember what he told you in the message?
I think it was about our son's school. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I don't really remember. Okay. Included in that was it included in that message that he was heading to the gym and was going to be at the gym between 9:15 and 10:30 that morning? I really don't remember, but that sounds like it could be what he would leave.
She was shown a transcript of the voicemail Dan left her that morning.
About the gym, he said, "I'm going to be at the gym probably between 9:15 and 10:30, but I'm happy to chat or meet with you. Maybe we can go for a walk at school or something like that. Let me know." Okay. So that particular voicemail doesn't sound very emotionally abusive. Would you agree with that? No, by this point in time, we were parenting really well and we were doing just fine. Getting along great.
Objection, Your Honor. What was the objection? Move to strike.
I'll strike the comment, Your Honor.
Wendy was asked if she talked to Charlie on the day of the murder, and she said yes, right after the TV repair guy left in the morning. Prosecutor Kappelman pointed out that it was an 18-minute call and asked if they talked about other things aside from the TV. And she said she doesn't remember, but they probably caught up. "Did you happen to mention Dan's plans to go to New York the next day?" Prosecutor Kappelman asked. She said she doesn't see why she would have. She was asked about WhatsApp and if she ever used that app to text her brother. She said she wasn't sure. She testified that she disagrees that there were any financial benefits for her after Dan's death.
When was the last time you talked to your mom? Did you talk to her today, yesterday?
I talked to her yesterday.
In her emails, and we referenced one of them while you've been here on the stand, she talks about you giving performances and playing roles. Did you discuss anything about what you would do here today in court with your mother?
No.
Were you involved in any way in the plot to kill your ex-husband?
Absolutely not.
Did you know it was going to happen, but maybe not know the details?
I knew nothing.
Is that why you went to the crime scene on the day of the homicide?
I did not go to the crime scene on the day of the homicide.
Do you know who all was involved in the murder?
Well, I learned today, but at the time, no.
Okay. Have you ever privately confronted your brother about his role or possible role in the murder?
My attorney has advised me not to have conversations with anyone in my family about the case.
But you had a close relationship with your brother at the time of the murder, right?
I absolutely had a close relationship with my brother.
And how soon after the murder did your lawyer advise you not to talk to your family about it?
In 2016.
Okay, so what about the 2 years in between? Did you talk to him about it then?
I talked to him about the fact that a murder occurred, but I guess I don't understand the question.
But you never talked to him about the suspicions you raised in the law enforcement interview that your brother might have done it?
No, I did not.
You suspected your brother could have been a part of this, right?
I suspected lots of people could have been a part of it.
But he was one of the people, right?
While I was talking with law enforcement for 6 hours, terrified out of my mind, I offered them every possible idea I could come up with.
Right. And one of the possible ideas was that your brother could have murdered your child's father.
I didn't really believe that was possible.
Was part of the plot for you to be able to have plausible deniability about this?
Absolutely not.
Is it better for both you and your brother if you don't know the details of this?
I don't even understand the question that you're asking me.
When did you first become aware that you might be a suspect in this case?
I mean, as the ex-wife, I assumed I was a suspect from the beginning.
She was asked if she wants the culpable parties held accountable for murdering the father of her children.
Absolutely. I'm grateful they're already in jail.
But not if it's your family.
It's not my family.
I mean, somebody hired him, right?
Not necessarily.
Somebody paid him.
I learned something this morning.
Yeah, me too. You didn't want him held accountable if it was your family members. Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
That's not what I told law enforcement.
What did you tell law enforcement?
I told them that the person who did this should be held responsible and that I had nothing to do with it.
Page 122, lines 7 through 12. If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The investigator says, regardless of who it is, and your answer is, I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother.
But I don't think it was my family, is what I said.
Different now, isn't it?
No, it's not different. That's exactly what I said
isn't
right
it?
here. No, that's not right.
No further questions.
On cross, Wendy agreed with Charlie's attorney, Dan Rashbaum, that the state has it wrong and that she wasn't involved in the plot to murder Dan. She was asked if she recalled telling Charlie about her marital problems, and she said yes. He was very supportive of her, but he wasn't angry or had any hatred towards Dan.
The state has you as a co-conspirator with Charlie Adelson, right?
I believe so.
But they also have you, according to them, blurting out during an interview that your alleged co-conspirator did the murder. Does that make any sense?
I don't understand the question.
Let me rephrase. They have you guys as co-conspirators. They think you did a murder together, right?
I think so. That's what they believe.
If you did a murder together, why would you have blurred out a statement like that?
I clearly would not.
He asked her if her mom kept bugging her to do the things she had talked about in her emails. Wendy said no, but that was just one crazy email.
By the way, in all of these emails, did your mom ever tell you to do something violent to Professor Markel?
No.
Was there ever any discussion of threats of violence in any way?
No, never.
Rashbaum then started asking her questions about plans she had made in Tallahassee for after the summer of 2014, like scheduling a meeting with a professor, making future playdates, and planning a trip for Donna to come to Tallahassee in November. She was asked if, due to Dan's motion accusing her of filing a false affidavit, she was concerned about getting disbarred, and she said no. She said the judge had told Dan that he needed to stop. She said Dan used to post about his travel plans on Facebook and on a blog he had started called The Prof's Blog. Rashbaum showed her a picture of an invitation from the day Dan was killed. It was for the Stock the Bar party Wendy had planned on going to that night, and it said to bring a bottle of Bullet bourbon. Wendy testified that she went to the liquor store by Dan's house because it was one she was familiar with. Rashbaum asked if her parents came to Tallahassee on the morning of July 19th, the day after Dan was shot. She said yes.
And when they got there, they were scared and frantic, right?
Yes.
Your dad didn't sleep. He couldn't get police protection, so he planted his chair in the front of your window to make sure that no one was going to come to your house and shoot it up, right?
Correct.
Now, you all attended a memorial service on the 20th, right?
Yes.
And you arranged for the Markels to see the boys after the memorial service, right?
They all came over to my house.
And you left Tallahassee, correct?
Not on the 20th. No.
On the 21st.
Yes.
And when you left Tallahassee on the 21st, did you bring all your belongings?
I brought some swimsuits for the boys and some pajamas, and I thought we'd be back in a day or two.
And when you left, you were not yourself.
I was a mess.
She said she hadn't slept in days and she was terrified. She wouldn't leave the house and wasn't eating. She said much later, she decided not to come back to Tallahassee. On redirect, Wendy was asked about a book she wrote. One of the main characters was Lily, who Wendy said was based on a friend of hers, not herself. Lily's husband was Josh Stone, who was an English professor at a fictional university called North Florida State University, NFSU. She said the book took place in a fictional location named Hiawassee Springs, but she said it wasn't representative of Tallahassee.
In the book, does Lily lament, quote, "We moved to this godforsaken place for Josh's career"?
Yes, that sounds like a line Lily would say.
As for Dan posting his travel plans on the Prof's blog or on Facebook, she agreed that he didn't post specific details. Prosecutor Kappelman asked Wendy if she was angry that, according to Charlie's theory, he and her mom have known who had killed her children's father since 2014, and she was never told about it.
I'm more angry that somebody killed my children's father.
So you're not mad about that they knew this whole time? That's what they're saying.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
That's the theory of the defense in this case, is that he's known the whole time. Your brother's known what happened to Dan. Does that make you angry?
I'm angry about so many things. It's hard to...
Is that one of them?
Separate them.
Well, try.
I'm confused. It's hard to process.
And apparently, according to his lawyer, these killers had threatened to kill your brother's family members as well. Did you hear that?
I did hear that.
And that would be you, right?
It would.
Were you told that a specific threat had been made by the same people that had killed your ex-husband to kill your brother's family members?
I was not told.
Would that have been information you would have liked to know back in 2014?
Yes.
Would you have made the same decision to move down to South Florida, closer to the killers?
No, I would not.
And even after the killers were arrested in 2016, you weren't told that that's what was going on the whole time.
I found out yesterday.
No further questions.
Wendy's former boyfriend, Jeffrey Lacasse, also took the stand at this trial. He had testified previously in the prior trials about how Wendy was really upset by all the divorce filings, especially the relocation being denied. He had also testified that she had told him in a serious moment that her brother really had looked into hiring a hitman. He told the prior juries that he had met Charlie once and that Charlie had bragged about knowing people of a criminal element. He had also alluded to his belief that Wendy had been trying to set him up, suspiciously asking about his travel details right around the time of the murder. He was due to leave town the morning after, perhaps making him look suspicious to investigators, but he ended up changing his plans and leaving prior, and he never told her that. In this trial, there were some additional questions he was asked and additional pieces of information he provided. He was asked about the TV in Wendy's home. He said he's sure it was broken sometime during the week of June 11th through the 18th. He knows that by looking at his prior text messages. He said he went over to Wendy's house one night and picked up a movie that they could watch with the kids.
I walk in the door and Miss Adelson asked me to look at her television because there's something wrong with the television.
And what was wrong with the television?
Well, I turned it on and I was immediately confused because it really shouldn't have been a question. As soon as you turn the TV on, it's been struck by an object and is damaged and basically unusable.
Can you explain what the damage looked like?
Yeah, it looked like somebody stood in front of it, took their fist, and hit it like that was my first impression.
So kind of like a shatter mark with spiders.
Yeah, there's like an impact crater, and then there's, out from that, and it's all pixelated and distorted, which makes it very difficult. Or really, no one would watch this TV unless you had to. And I had second thoughts about that. I looked around the room. Maybe the kids broke it, so I looked all around the room, and it didn't seem plausible that the children broke it. They're very small. This object had to be kind of heavy. I'd thrown a ball around with them. I just couldn't see how the kids could have done it.
But you didn't see how it got busted.
I didn't see it. I didn't know for sure. And I didn't know we'd be discussing this in a murder trial, so I didn't investigate further or think about it very much, to be honest with you. I just thought, okay,
Were there other TVs in the house?
There was a TV in the back bedroom, a similar make and model that we had watched television with the kids before on that TV before. So, yes.
Is that where you watched the movie that night?
No, I went to go hook up the DVD player in the back room. Miss Adelson insisted that it would not work and actually stopped me from even trying. So thought that was very odd, but I didn't want to argue. And it's her house, her TV, her kids. So I said, okay.
So did you watch the movie on the broken TV?
Yeah, we gave the kids movie night where we watched a movie on a broken television that was distorted enough that you could follow what was happening, but the kids are whining and crying the whole time. And I wasn't whining or crying exactly, but I was tempted to because it was pretty frustrating. And I just didn't understand, what was going on. And of course, I had related that this TV is broken, it's unwatchable, it's not covered by warranty, you're going to have to get a new TV. And I offered to go do that for her anytime she wanted. She's a busy single mom. I'll run by Best Buy, get you a new TV. It was not like a 80-inch TV or something that was really that luxurious. It was a TV like you'd see in a dorm room. So we could have replaced it right away.
He said Wendy turned him down several times, and so he never bought her a new one. Stephen Webster was Dan Markel's divorce attorney when Dan died. He said when he took on the case, the divorce filings were already voluminous. He said he could tell the divorce was contentious, and at first he felt like he didn't want to get involved. But he ended up meeting Dan anyway. I liked him a lot, he said, and so he decided to represent him. He told the court that Dan's primary concern was that he wanted more time with his two young sons.
He wanted to get more time with his children, if at all possible, but he didn't want to change the kind of the time sharing. He had a kind of an unusual request. He wanted to see if there was any way that he could see the children every night when he didn't have them, to tuck them into bed and kiss them goodnight. And he said, look, I'll only stay 5 minutes. I promise I won't bother anybody and I'll leave. And I said, Dan, that's probably never going to happen. That's just probably not reasonable. And then he was really concerned about parental alienation, which at the time I wasn't, really familiar with it. I didn't do family law, but I was familiar with it from the perspective of I learned about it in law school and stuff like that. But he was really concerned that the grandmother, Donna Adelson, was really trying to drive a wedge between him and the children. And he actually told me that he heard her refer to him as stupid on a Skype call. He couldn't see her in the Skype screen, but he heard her say something to the effect of stupid's on the phone. And he was livid about it. And he was ready to basically kind of go to war over that.
Did that sort of reference the filing that we're familiar with where grandma says you're stupid, and he was seeking to have grandma enjoined from having unsupervised contact with the kids?
Yeah, and I didn't have the opportunity to actually talk to him about that yet because he was killed. But it was my understanding that after that filing, he heard her. Actually, he heard her, because that's what he told me. He said, I heard her call me stupid. But she wasn't in the screen, but he knew her voice. And so he was very upset about that. And then the other thing that he was upset about, he wanted the Holocaust diamond back.
So property of his, family property that Wendy had.
Yeah, and he wanted that back.
He was asked if the case could have been resolved if Dan had been offered $1 million so Wendy and the kids could relocate. He said no.
We've heard some testimony that everything was going well between Dan Markel and Wendy in the few weeks leading up to his death. Do you have any knowledge of that?
It's untrue. There's a reason he hired me. He didn't retain me because he needed a friend. Tor basically told me on the phone call, he said, look, there's going to be a trial and it's going to be acrimonious. And he needs a lawyer that can go into the courtroom and be prepared to fight. He said, that's why I think you could handle this case. And we were heading towards a trial.
He said the day prior to Dan's death, Dan had actually sent him an email and was irate because Wendy had enrolled their oldest son in his school without talking to him about it.
So there were a bunch of issues still going on.
Yes.
It was hot at the time.
Yes.
All right. And there was some suggestion that Dan Markel was expected to lose all the filings that were currently pending at the time of his death, and Wendy was expected to prevail on everything. Do you agree with that assessment?
You mean like with the contempt and all of that?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would not have got involved if I thought he was going to lose on the contempt. My reputation travels with my clients too if they're doing things like that, right? I mean, if you're representing a client who is disrespecting the court, it's hard not to feel like that's bleeding off on you and you're disrespecting the court.
And seeking contempt is kind of a big deal amongst lawyers, right?
Yes. I mean, contempt is, it's a very ugly kind of prospect. And as a lawyer, that was one of my main concerns is, she was a lawyer. And I did feel like she should be held in contempt. She didn't disclose things on her financial affidavit. Dan convinced me of that.
But that was to be determined, right?
But
by a court.
Yes. But in my mind,
yes,
that was the only reason I took it.
Okay.
And, at the end of the day, you can lose your law license for that.
Prosecutor Kappelman asked if Dan was brilliant, and he said yes. He said Dan was angry about Donna calling him stupid, but that Dan wasn't vindictive or vengeful. He was funny and smart, he said. The prosecution's case wasn't over. There were still all the wiretaps for the jury to listen to, and a few more interesting witnesses, including Catherine Magbanowa, who was now about to tell the court and the world that she had lied during her own trials, but was now wanting to tell the truth.
So why tell the truth now?
I believe that the truth needed to come out now so that the family can get some type of closure.
Why didn't the truth need to come out last year or the year before or the year before that?
I was trying to defend myself.
You were trying to get off?
Yes, ma'am.
That's next week on Part 2. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.
Hold on to your jingle bells. Pluto TV has all your holiday favorites for free. Enjoy our season's greetings category with 9 holiday channels, including holiday movie favorites by Lifetime, Festive Fireplace, Holiday Lights, and Hallmark movies and more. Download the Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming holiday favorites on live channels and on demand with thousands of free movies and TV shows. Pluto TV is your home for the holidays. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.